Just this is like a public service question, I guess. Do you Negroes feel bad that you are very reactionary, no self-restraint, no regard for other human life, pretty dumb, probably 10 points lower IQ than white people, plus you have that sub-Saharan gene which makes you a jungle bunny?
Hello guys, welcome back again to another episode. And of course, if you're watching this video for the first time, please subscribe so that you become part and parcel of this channel. Anytime that we drop a new video, you'll be notified that we just dropped a video for you to watch and comment. Now, the internet is exploding after a white man who went on live TV and called black people low IQ just got fired. The man thought he could disrespect the entire race on national television and walk away like nothing happened. But this time, the world wasn't having it. You know, the backlash was instant. Sponsors dropped him, his network panicked, and now his career just got done. Now, let's talk about this, guys. And of course, if you love this video, please subscribe.
This is like a public service question, I guess. Do you Negroes feel bad that you are very reactionary, no self-restraint, no regard for other human life, pretty dumb, probably 10 points lower IQ than white people, plus you have that sub-Saharan gene which makes you a jungle bunny?
Hey, Brian Colin, you have so many aliases, but do you mind if I just call you Brian? You say Negroes have no self-restraint, no regard for human life. Let me ask you a quick question. Your son has a few battery charges. Does that make him a Negro? Felony domestic violence charge? No regard for human life. I guess that makes him a jungle bunny. Huh, Brian? Brian, if you had been half the father as you are a racist, maybe your son wouldn't be strung out right now trying to deal with his demon.
I don't believe that makes Africans inferior, but I do think that explains.
Bro, stop lying. I don't believe that makes Africans inferior. They're just dumb and black, but that doesn't make them inferior. They didn't have a wheel. They didn't have language. They didn't have buildings. They're just slinging poo-poo on each other, but that doesn't make them inferior. I'm not a racist. Like, first off, you lied about all three of those things. And you are a racist, and what you're suggesting is that yes, they are inferior, and there's nothing wrong with being honest, but try to bring in some facts, which you are not bringing in because you don't have any.
Is there a relative level of development that has been persistent over centuries, millennia?
Yeah, I probably just disagree with that point altogether. Okay, so then at least you are agreeing that Jewish people are just born smarter.
Yeah, they're very high IQ. I don't know if they're smarter than white people, but they're...
You have to, that's what the results say.
That's what some results say. Depends.
Oh, now Nick is questioning the test. He's questioning the results. That's the core of white supremacy, is the deceit. When you're talking about black people being intellectually inferior, the IQ tests are flawless. When we're talking about Jews being smarter than white people, well, that's some tests. The tests are unreliable. Do you see what I'm saying here? It's truly pathological. It's a mental illness, these people.
What results you're looking at.
Okay. I thought that was kind of the, maybe I'm just reading it in one term, but I'm pretty sure that I read somewhere that like Ashkenazis have the highest IQs.
They like to embellish that. And there's different kinds of.
They like to embellish that, just like you guys like to embellish things. Like, I don't know, did you embellish the idea that Africans did not have the wheel, Nicholas? Did you say that? Yes, Africans had the wheel. Did they just get it yesterday, or did they get it from the whites? It says ancient Nubia, ancient Kush. I think I mentioned ancient Nubia earlier. Gee, Marquette, you smart. Ancient Nubia. Oh, okay, interesting. Fascinating. Okay, back to Nicholas.
Kinds of IQ. I think Chinese people probably have the highest IQ, Chinese or Japanese.
But how do you pick and choose what you believe and what you don't believe?
Racism, Candace. He does it based on racism. Come on, carry on.
Form a basis like, well, I definitely believe that black people are dumb, But I totally don't
Oh, come on
necessarily
now.
believe. I'm obviously being a little bit hyperbolic here. I totally don't necessarily believe that Ashkenazis are the smartest. Like, how do you?
Well, I said they're probably among the smartest races. As to who's the smartest, it's tough to say. And I think that Jewish people do embellish that for obvious reasons. Now,
It's funny. Who's the smartest? It's tough to say. Probably white people, but it's tough to say. I don't know. It could be whites. I don't know. Who is it? Who is it?
there are some studies that
This is like a public service question, I guess. Do you Negroes feel bad that you are very reactionary, no self-restraint, no regard for other human life, pretty dumb, probably 10 points lower IQ than white people, plus you have that sub-Saharan gene, which makes you a jungle bunny and an animal. So that's why you're having a hard time getting by in society. If you just looked at your own behavior, maybe you could help fix it. I don't know. I don't think you just want to. I think you just like living like that. Animals. But whatever.
Hi, John. How are you? Do you want to see some pictures of what I did over the weekend? This is me and my friends walking to the football game. This is the marching band right before the football game. I saw this guy wearing this sweatshirt. I thought it was kind of cool. This was the score last 2 minutes of the first quarter. This is me walking around the tailgate area after the game. I wish I'd taken a picture of this before I started eating it, but this was a plate of food that I got from a complete stranger at the game. And good God, there was so much food, and it was good. And then after the game, horses showed up. Yes, horses. That was a North Carolina A&T homecoming game, John. Are you familiar with North Carolina A&T? But before I get to that, John, I want to ask you a question. Are you an aerospace engineer? Do you know any aerospace engineers? I know aerospace engineers. I know 2 of them, and they're both black. Do you have a computer science degree, John? Or better yet, do you have a PhD in computer science? Do you know anybody with a PhD in computer science? Because I do, and she also happens to be black. What about mechanical engineering, John? Do you know anyone with a PhD in mechanical engineering? Because I do, and they're all black. What about a dual degree? Do you know anyone with a master's in geology and a PhD in mathematics? Do you know anyone like that, John? Because I do, and he's black. His wife's a professor. She also has a PhD in chemistry. And surprise, surprise, she's also black. Do you see where I'm going with this, John? All those people I mentioned, they either teach or have graduated from North Carolina A&T. And just for the record, for those of you who say they have lower standards at HBCUs because North Carolina A&T is an HBCU, that's not possible. If you are an institute of higher learning and you offer an associate's, a bachelor's, a master's, a PhD, you have to be accredited, and all those accreditation standards are the same for everyone. They do not lower standards for any institute of higher learning. Now, with all that being said, John, all those people I mentioned, I'm almost 100% certain they have a higher degree than you. So if their IQs are lower, as you put it, how smart does that make you? Let me answer that question for you, John. Obviously not smart enough to not be a racist piece of shit. Well, anyway, this has been Doc for Diesel Punk Industries saying, keep pride. Thanks for watching. And as always, Crunchy Whyte, pimp.
See, it's not your racism that's the problem, because we know that's all you've got. That's all your parents passed down to you. That's all their parents passed down to them. That's all their parents' parents passed down to them, and so on and so forth. So we understand that's all you got. We understand that the entirety of your lives, the entirety of your personality has been built upon the foundation of racism, and that's all you have. The problem comes in when you think your racism inspires fear, when you think your racism makes you sound tough or look tough or whatever the case may be. But here's the truth that you know and we know, and you know we know. You just simply aren't built for one-on-one combat. The only true power that you have lies at the end of your weapon. You know it and we know it. And we know that that is why you'll single out one black person, say a truck driver in North Carolina traveling alone, and swoop down on him like a pack of rabid dogs. Because that's the only way you can do it. Like sneaky little dirty little rats skulking through the mud in the dead of night. That is what you are. And that is what you'll always be. Because it's not patriotism that drives you. It's fear. You know it. And we know it. And you know we know it.
White men commit mass shootings to create terror in an attempt to control people the same way they used to use lynchings to try to control people, because white culture is white supremacy. Once we start realizing that this violence that white people are perpetuating against the nation is rooted in racism and is a result of basically generational trauma of them attending these lynchings, cutting people's body parts off, setting them on fire, taking photos of it, taking body parts home as souvenirs, and they've literally watched this violence, perpetuated this violence for a really, really long time, and now it's just something that they do, and they're raised up in this environment of violence is the answer. Literally from the moment they open their eyes, they have guns in their hands, and they're taught like, oh, somebody breaks into your home, shoot them. Somebody does something to someone you love, shoot them. That's literally what they're taught, and that was something that was taught to them throughout the entire generations. Oh, you don't like black people, you don't think they're equal, they didn't listen to you, kill them, lynch them. Like, that's literally what they've been taught, and they're continuing the cycle of violence because it's in their culture. And the reason why they won't stray away from this being their culture and instead just embracing, being Italian, being German, being French, instead of just embracing the cultures that they come from, they are angry with black people because, one, they took where we came from. We don't know our, lineage. And so instead we've created a whole new culture surrounding the fact that, we were freed and we are black and we take pride in that. And they want to be able to take pride in being white instead of their culture, when really we are celebrating our culture. We don't know where our roots are from. We can't have, Ethiopian pride because we don't know if we're from there. So instead we create our own culture, our own food, our own music. We created all these things, and they still want to hold on to just being white. And somehow they can't put the pieces together that there's something different in having pride in being black, because there's culture surrounding that, and they don't understand that the reason why you can't be proud for being white is because you're being proud of being a white supremacist. It's literally what your culture is, because there's no other culture surrounding being white. Again, you have Italian heritage, you have French, German, whatever. You have all of those things that you could take pride in, but instead you're trying to take pride in being white. But yeah, this is something that they really need to completely unlearn, because I think it makes them very, very insecure when they already have roots in things that they can be proud of.
Vindictive demographic that you need to watch out for are the mediocre white men. Because what do you mean? You can clean up and look good, put on some nice clothes, and people will believe that you belong in leadership. What do you mean that people will listen to you when you speak? Automatically gain respect. Having that kind of advantage and still being poor and mediocre tells you a lot about that person's mindset. Hard done by, victim mindset, and then someone else has to pay. Look at the majority of the supremacist movement and who actually funds that movement. Who's the majority in the movement? You may think that the most privileged white men are the movement, but that's not true. The bottom of the hierarchy think that this is the way to gain power. I'm still gonna include the liberal, mediocre white men in this group because they just found their way of coping to coast being mediocre. They benefit off of other people's labor. That's their strategy. They love to be low effort, coast, and they believe that's their right and entitlement. If you're a hard worker and someone very competent, they love that about you. They love to powergasm. They love to ride on the backs, especially women of the global majority, because that's where they can feel powerful. You are worth more, but they can have power over you. They love that. Do not ever get enmeshed with these individuals because it's hard enough to deal with them in corporate and business. You do not want them in your house or have finances entangled with this person. He feels entitled to your labor, and he's gonna make sure that you pay him with a lifetime of slavery.
I said white people in that video because I meant white people, and white women are included in that number. Y'all always try to do this thing where we speak about the atrocities committed by white people against black and brown groups and other marginalized groups across the globe. And here y'all come with this bullshit about, we are also scared of them. I beg your damn pardon. Y'all have been complicit since day one. So many wars and conflicts have been started simply because y'all felt like making trouble that motherfucking day. Okay? Y'all have been hand in hand with white men from day one, taking, pillaging, stealing, all of it. Y'all have been right there, two peas in a white supremacist pod. And what's funny is there have been books written about the special kind of hell that enslaved black people endured at the hands of the master's wives. Why? Because the masters were not involved with the day-to-day. They had the money and they had the power because they were the men of the house. They were not dealing every day face-to-face, hand-to-hand with the folks that they enslaved. But you know who was? The wives, the mistress of the home was running all that shit. Every day face-to-face, who were white women interacting with during times of enslavement? Who were white women choosing to nurse their children and raise their children? Y'all are in fear because you did clownery, and now the clown is coming back to bite. Y'all were a part of it, so y'all gonna get these consequences too. It's not just historically where y'all have chosen your race over your gender. It's recent as well. You showed it in the way that you continue to vote against your own best interests in order to punish other people. So that was cute and that was a nice try. Take that somewhere else. Y'all are just as complicit, and the leopard is finna eat your face.
Hey, TikTok. So last night, I had the pleasure of going on to this new live. And the gentleman was a white guy, and he was talking about white on white crime, right? So it was very interesting. So I wanted to, hear more about it. So as I'm listening, he was talking about himself, growing up as a white man in, a home where, whites were viewed as superior, other races weren't. And he said, one day as he was walking down the street with his daughter, he passed by a white guy. He didn't have to look back. He said, but as he was passing a black gentleman, he said he had to look back 3 times because of the things that were instilled in his head about black people in general. So he had to bring awareness to that because he was like, you know what, this is crazy. So he started doing research. So when he looked on the FBI statistics website page, table 43, he was able to see that a lot of white people commit more crimes than any other race. So the gentleman was like, look, let's talk about it, right? So one gentleman came up, he let him come up. He said, why do you think it's so much white on white crime? He said, well, blacks commit 13%. He said, we're not doing that. He said, I specifically asked you about white on white crime. I'm looking at table 43 and I'm telling you, we as white men commit more crimes than any other race. Oh, that guest went into a frenzy. He was spiraling. He was like, sir, what are you talking about? 13%? He went over that. He debunked it. He said, that's not even it. That's as far as arrests. He said, white people make up, they're the minority. They're the majority. They're 59%. So if it's 59% of white people committing more crimes, why are you saying blacks commit more when it's us? And the gentleman, the guest, just spiraled out and said the N-word. And it's like, so I stayed engaged. I said, okay, let me listen at more. So as I'm looking in the comments in the live, I'm seeing white men. And I notice with these lives, and I'm not going to say all of them, but a lot of MAGA men are on these lives. A lot of them are hateful men. And that's why we're in the situation we're in now, because of hate like that. So I like the fact that the host had to deconstruct himself from that behavior that he was taught as a child and growing up. There are a few white content creators on here. I think one of them, his name is Danny G. He was in jail and he talks about how he had to deconstruct his mindset from racism because he was raised in that. So a lot of them are understanding now that is something that is taught. But then when you come out into the real world and you become an adult, you start to see things differently. So then the gentleman brought up another guest. And he seemed very intelligent, but, I still wanted to hear his, argument. So he asked the gentleman, he said, so what are you trying to do here? Are you trying to, what is your goal? Talking about white on white crime. So I'm sitting back in my head like, why would that even be a question? That's just me. Why would that be a question? He's telling you what he's doing. So what is the problem? In my head. So he said, sir, I'm trying to bring awareness and I'm trying to hold accountability. He said, I'm letting my people know that they need to get it together. They need to stop with this. They're the reason why a lot of things are going on. So the guest was like, I don't see that. I said, oh my God. So now he brought up a scenario, the host. He said, Matt Gaetz, right? He was like, yeah. He said, so all the scandals and everything that Matt Gaetz went through, how the media, now this is on the media side of it. So he made up this scenario. He said they overlooked it. They didn't look at him as a villain or a tyrant, or, less than. They coddled him. He said, you didn't hear about all over the news about what Matt Gaetz did. It was like they swept it under the floor. He said, but when the Trayvon Martin trial was going on, he was saying how Fox News and other media outlets were digging and finding things about him, trying to drag him as a black man, this and that. So he said, so how is it different when a white man can do all of these heinous things like Matt Gaetz, but it's swept under the rug and coddled, but then you view Trayvon Martin as just a horrific criminal? You know what the guy said? I think you're making that up. I don't see what you're talking about. I said, what the fuck? This is what and then in the comments, I'm still looking just to see. Remember I had a video talking about mirroring and the regurgitated talking points that white people do? They were doing it in his live. Talking about looting, the 13%, victims. And it was like, oh my God, they really don't want to be held accountable. And I mean, it was just crazy to see how these men were acting. So after looking at that, I said, okay. I said, I need to make a video about that. And this is what I'm going to say to you white men. You're the reason why the world is in the situation that it's in now. You have reigned on society for centuries. You have done dirt. You have killed, murdered, raped. You have done all types of shit and never been held accountable for it. And I like that because now it shows me that you still think that you're superior and better than anyone else when you're not. You white men are the problem. You're the problem. Because you have been told and you have been raised to think that you can do what you want to do and get away with it. And it has been shown that as well. That's why you can't see a problem with your behavior, because you've been doing it for so long and been able to get away with it. Whereas if a black man, a Mexican, Latino, Asian, if any of them do the crimes that you do, oh, they will get definitely penalized for that. Jail time. You guys get a slap on the wrist. And that's what that host was trying to allude to them, but they did not want to listen to that. And until you get it together, white community, I hope every other white person is getting it together and putting you on blast. Fix your own shit. And that's what Charlie Kirk should have did. Instead of focusing on other minorities, he should have been focusing on you. And I've been putting that table 43 out for years as far as white crime. And people have ignored it. But I'm glad that we are sitting down and back, because now when you sit down and sit back, it makes other people now have to deal with their issues. And see, white people, now it's coming to a head. So now you are going to have to deal with these issues, that you are the most vile race out here. Statistics don't lie. You guys do. And it's been proven throughout centuries. You are liars, you're killers, you're barbarians, you're all of that. And until you fix that issue, I hope your own keeps calling you out for your blatant racism and barbaric ways.
You know, as hard as it is to see, mass shootings happen, especially at the scale that they're happening to, and especially in places where people should be safe, I also know white people. And I'm learning more about us every single day. And
now, during a live broadcast, the white man claimed that black people have got low IQs and don't value hard work. Even his co-host looked stunned, very shocked. The silence in the studio said everything. And the clip spread across Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and even in YouTube. And this one here. Millions have watched, reacted, calling out his arrogance and ignorance and demanding his removal. What he thought was just bold statement turned into career suicide for him. And hashtags like fire him now, racists live on TV just began trending. Activists, journalists, and regular people spoke up immediately without wasting time. And the network tried to calm the situation, saying they'd review the matter. But people were not having it. They wanted action immediately, not any excuse. And within 24 hours, the man was suspended, then fired. He tried to apologize, claiming it was a misunderstanding. But the clip spoke for itself. There was no context, just raw, and it was just an open racism. Calling some people low IQ is not a very small thing. That's a big stuff. And black people couldn't just take it lightly. Protest and angry citizens began pulling up at his old workshop. Some went to the public events linked to him, chanting his name and demanding a real apology. His sponsors cut ties, his show was cancelled, and his name was dragged online. And people dug up old comments and DMs, exposing years of racism behaviors from him. Even his former co-worker said that this wasn't new. He's always been like this. The man who once mocked others was now the center of humiliation. And now, this proves what happens when people get too comfortable disrespecting black folks just publicly like that. Because he thought freedom of speech meant freedom from consequences. He was wrong. Times have changed today. People don't take things lightly. Black voices are louder than ever thought. Because for years, media has ignored racism. And now it gets called out just immediately it happened. Imagine one reckless comment ended this man's career, credibility, and his reputation. Accountability has finally arrived, and it's not playing with anyone or anybody, race, color, or what. It does not play with anyone, because black people are here to conquer, not to be controlled. The same man who looked down on others is now jobless, exposed, and humiliated. The same audience that once laughed with him is now turning their backs against him. And I think he's just learned the hard way. Racism isn't entertainment. Hate speech comes with real-life consequences. And his downfall became a lesson for the world, a moment of justice and sign that the game has changed totally. No time to play, no time to joke.